Start this football season by winning $2 million in Week 1 at DraftKings.com. With 1 Week Fantasy at DraftKings, you can play when you want with the team you want. Just pick your contest, pick your team, and pick up your winnings. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Welcome to the big time. Go to DraftKings.com now and use promo code ASSIST to play free for a shot at the $2 million top prize in the Week 1 $10 million Millionaire Maker. Enter ASSIST for free entry now at DraftKings.com.
Play.it sports podcasts are powered by DraftKings. Sign up now and play daily fantasy sports for cash.
Judge Berman continued to throw more and more evidence at him to the point where when it went into the case, there were a lot of people who questioned and wondered whether Tom Brady had been a part of the scheme. And at the very end, even if the NFL had been handed a victory today, which they were not, they still would have lost because their methods and their procedures all came under fierce questioning and fierce criticism from a federal judge that they picked.
So this is our rejoin today. It's Felger and Mazz an hour early. Executive producer Jimmy Stewart changing up the intro here a little bit. Our long national nightmare is over. Our long local nightmare is over. And I do think it's kind of over, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Again, Felger and Mazz coming to you an hour early today for obvious reasons. Big news breaking. This afternoon, Tom Brady's 4-game suspension vacated, nullified, overturned today by federal judge Richard Berman in New York. We will be going until 4:30. We're off the air 90 minutes early today, so we're going to come in an hour early and make up for it on the front side. At 4:30, we've got Patriots pregame presented by your New England Honda dealers with Beetle and Gasper and team president Jonathan Kraft. Jonathan Kraft will be responding to the news today and giving you the organization's feeling on this when he talks to Mark and Gasper in that pregame show. So you want to stay tuned all day here on 98.5 The Sports Hub and all day here on Felger and Mazz, which is going to begin an hour early. You've heard the news already. We are going to have your reaction throughout the course of the day. Mazz, you want to start or you want me to?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, obviously, what a win. What a win for Brady. What a win for the Patriots. Patriots fans feel great right now, and they should. They deserve it. It was a huge victory. It was a slam dunk victory. This was not splitting the baby. This was not a half decision. This was not a split decision. This was not vacating but sending back for more arbitration. Nope. This was not splitting the baby. 2 for ball deflation, 2 for noncompliance like we talked about yesterday. Nope. This wasn't a ruling for the NFL with an immediate stay that allows Brady to play. Nope. This was a flat-out vacating of the 4-game award. So a slam dunk, over-the-top victory for Tom Brady and the Patriots. And concurrently, what a defeat for Roger Goodell and the NFL.
Huge.
What an embarrassing, unmitigated loss for Roger Goodell and the NFL. And I would say that the NFL deserved to lose the case. They deserved it. The right side won the case, which is a different argument than did they do it or not. This is about the case. And the NFL deserved to lose this case. They deserved to lose it, Mazz, starting with the investigation, which was not complete enough. And then not just taking the incomplete investigation, but then over-punishing that incomplete investigation or using that incomplete investigation as a basis for an over-punishment. Then they get to the appeal, and they're too stiff and rigid on the appeal. Goodell could have played it straight at the appeal. He could have knocked down the length of the suspension like he does so many others. He could have knocked that down. He could have afforded Brady due process, taken a couple games off, and allowed Pash to testify or the notes to be shared. He could have done that at the appellate process, and he didn't. He kept it at 4, which, again, is very rare in these NFL cases. All these suspensions are reduced. This one was not. And Brady was not afforded his due process at the arbitration. And then I think most importantly, when you got to this stage, Brady was willing to make a deal. Brady was willing to make a deal. The NFL's getting hammered in front of Richard Berman. They're getting their asses handed to them by this judge. and their case picked apart and their key points picked apart on a daily basis. And here Brady comes and says, I'll take a game suspension based on the right language, and the league doesn't take it. They deserve to lose this, and Brady deserved to win. So that's where we are today. What are your thoughts?
Okay, just on that last point, though, why do you dismiss reports that the NFL would have been willing to make a deal from people like Jason Cole?
Because I think it came too long ago, and when we get to this point, this point, Mazz, where Berman is making it clear how he feels about the NFL's case, right? And this goes back now. Now we know Berman just was advocate. That's how he felt. And so the NFL was playing some game of chicken? Like, Richard, yeah, you don't really feel that way. You're going to rule for us in the end anyway. Go ahead, slap us around. You don't really feel, you're just play acting. Well, what a terrible misread on the part of the NFL. The judge is telling them in open court how he feels about the case, and Brady's going to offer them a game, and they're still going to say no? They deserve to lose. I said it then.
Yeah, I just don't know that. The only part I don't get is why necessarily it's fact that Brady was willing to make a deal, but the NFL wasn't. Of all the things you said, that's the only part I would contend.
Because I'm taking the reports here at the end at their face value, that the NFL at the end was only willing to go to 3 games with admission of guilt, which is not much of an offer.
Okay, but so again, you're pick and choosing reports, though.
No, I'm not.
Yes. Jason Cole said the NFL was willing to make a deal.
That was before they got in front of Judge Berman, man.
Okay, well, recently, Rappaport said they'd given some indication that they'd go to 2.
Okay, with still admission of guilt. Not much of an offer. Brady could not admit guilt. That was a non-starter. That's not an offer, whether it was 3 or 2 games.
Yeah, like I said, the only part is the bottom part. The last thing you said, I don't agree with. That Brady was willing to make a deal and the league wasn't. I don't think we know that definitively. All the other stuff is true.
Well, we don't know anything definitively.
Well, the league, we can say the league botched the investigation. We can say that.
Well, for sure.
So that stuff to me is for sure.
See, I don't think, and this is going to be parsing words, the investigation wasn't the problem as it relates to today. The investigation was a problem overall. It was incomplete. But the problem was using that incomplete investigation to reach the findings that they did, right? I mean, Wells himself, in his conclusion, acknowledges the problems with his report by saying, more probable than not and generally aware. I know that's the language the NFL's looking for, but he could have worded it stronger if the evidence was stronger. Wells didn't hand out the punishment, by the way. So Wells was just there to find what he could find without subpoena power and then draw a conclusion. And Wells's conclusion was more probable than not and generally aware, which, oh, by the way, I still agree with. It's more probable than not they were doing it, and Brady probably knew what was going on. But you don't take that and then suspend him 4 games, and then when he appeals it, keep it at 4 games and don't allow him due process. That's just stupid. You take an incomplete investigation and say, okay, there's problems with this thing. It's not complete. I can't throw the book at you when all we have is general awareness. So here's a game for destroying the phone, and here's a game for the general awareness. And on appeal, I'm even going to consider, if Goodell had played it like that, the NFL doesn't lose today. So they overreached on what they were handed by Wells.
Well, look, even Berman said what he said in the decision he handed down today. And to me, that was, there were 2 parts of it that really crystallized the whole thing. If you can only read a paragraph or 2, you go to the bottom of page 20. Okay? Let me tell you right now, the section marked number 4, analysis, the first paragraph and the second paragraph, if you're looking for a general summation of the whole thing, that's where you're going. Bottom of page 20, top of page 21, where Berman writes, first, an arbitrator's factual findings are generally not open to judicial challenge, and we accept the facts as the arbitrator found them. Okay? That means of the facts that the NFL found in the case, in their estimation, Berman is not challenging any of those. Okay? So again, this is not about whether he thinks Brady did it. He's saying effectively here, if Goodell believes that, I'm in no position to say no. Okay, because I think a lot of fans are misinterpreting this.
Of course.
And they are viewing this as Brady is innocent, and that is not what Berman is saying. Okay, secondly, the second paragraph, which covers the whole thing and gives you the reasons why Berman decided the way he did. The court is fully aware of the deference afforded to arbitral decisions, but nevertheless concludes that the award should be vacated, premised upon several significant legal deficiencies, including inadequate notice to Brady of both his potential discipline and his misconduct. Denial of the opportunity for Brady to examine one of the 2 lead investigators, namely Jeff Pash. Denial of equal access to investigative files, including witness interview notes that the league had. That's it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, right? That they didn't have the right to hit Brady with the 4 games, They didn't give him the right to interview Pash, and they didn't turn over the documents, and that made the process unfair. Effectively, what he said is a mistrial.
Well, no, they just said the NFL misfired on the process, which is what these things typically come down to.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know, and so, but he's right. He's right. That in terms of that, the NFL deserved to lose it. They deserved to lose it because they overreached. If Goodell had played it down the middle from the start, if he had just allowed Pash to testify, if he had just shared the notes, if he had knocked down a game or two, and again, not overreached based on the Wells report. So the NFL deserves to lose this one. And this is from an NFL standpoint, has to be an earth-shattering development in terms of future discipline. And, I think this thing I think it's largely over because the NFL's not going for an injunction that's going to impact Brady this year. This case, on average, I heard they had the Daniel Wallach guy on today again in the midday show, their legal expert, saying that on average in the Second Circuit, appeals take 10 months, okay, on average. So that's going to get you through the end of the season. Now we're in the off season. And I think between now and then, I don't know, so much is going to happen to the team on the field. There's going to be more things off the field. It's just, I just don't see this ramping back up next year to where we are today. And I don't even know if the league is going to go all the way. My advice to the league would be drop it. Drop it, right? You could lose now easily on appeal because you lost this one definitively. I mean, this wasn't even close. And now you're going to lose on appeal and have a real precedent-setting case, and in the meantime drag this all the way back through the mud? And are you going to have full support of the 32 owners to go back into appellate court after you've blown another one? Drop it. Drop it. Let it go. And so I think this thing is largely over. I do.
See, I don't. I mean, the level of intensity may not be the same, Nick, but I don't think it's over.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure after this, Maz, that Jeff Pash or the NFL lawyers, that these guys are going to have their jobs. I mean, heads are going to have to roll here at some point. You can't keep losing on process and then have the same guys go, administer the process going forward. How many losses on process is Goodell and his office going to have before the NFL owners say, we have to change the guys in charge of the process? And I'm not even sure Pash and these guys are going to have their jobs by the time you get to appeal.
Yeah, but why stop at Pash? Go to the commissioner.
No, well,
And you know what? I said this back at Ray Rice, if you remember. The commissioner's got to go. He's got no credibility.
He's also not a lawyer. So he's relying on the legal expertise of those around him. And so if I'm the owners, I'm looking at that panel, the lawyers, and saying, we can't keep sending you into court to lose. We can't keep sending you into these arbitration hearings to get overturned and to foul up the process. So again, I'm just saying in 10 months, I don't even know if Pash, Nash, these guys are going to be in charge of this sort of stuff. And I don't know what the temperature of the 32 owners is going to be in 10 months. This thing could be largely over, and if I'm the NFL, I just drop it.
Yeah, look, again, you can believe that. I don't think it's over yet. I think the good news is that Brady's playing the 2015 season. I think that in all probability, that is what we got today, without any interruption. Because as you said, the chance of an appeal being heard is not going to happen until next year sometime. Hell, we're already in September. Like, the chances of it happening in the next 3 months? Slim. So Brady's playing this year. I think that's what we learned today is that Brady's playing this year, but I don't think it's over.
Okay. Special edition, Felger and Mazz. Hour early because we're getting out 90 minutes early for Patriots pregame, where again you will hear directly from Jonathan Kraft, team president, with his and the organization's reactions to the news of the day. Tom Brady's 4-game suspension vacated today by Judge Richard Berman in New York. Jimmy Stewart, you said we've gotten a lot of hate mail so far?
I've seen thousands of it, and people have been lined up since I did the crossover.
You should see my Twitter feed.
So we'll give you all that reaction. Hell, we'll let you do it live and in person. 617-779-0985. We have a show email? I haven't even bothered to look at my personal one. I'm going to wait for that. But your live reaction, which we welcome again on the phone lines right after these words.
Felger and Mazz. TuneIn Premium has all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That's all the radio you want for $7.99 a month. That means every single Major League Baseball game, every single BPL game, the most massive collection of commercial-free radio stations in the world, and over 5.5 million podcasts and unlimited access to 40,000 audiobooks. And the best part, you won't have to listen to guys like me. There are no commercials. Download the TuneIn Radio app for a free 7-day trial of TuneIn Premium.
The balls we practice with are as bad as they can be. Wet, sticky, cold, slippery. However bad we can make them, I make them.
The most important thing here is, was there a violation of the rules? And if so, how did that occur?
I didn't alter the ball in any way. I have a process that I go through before every game where I go in and I pick the footballs that I want to use for the game.
The decision handed down by the league yesterday is unfathomable to me.
We have breaking news on Tom Brady's appeal of his 4-game suspension. We understand that Judge Berman in New York has nullified Tom Brady's suspension and it will be reversed.
Did it!
Love you, man.
Did it, bro. I love you.
Okay, your reaction. One thing we ask is be as brief as possible. A lot of people want to get in. We'll get a lot of voices there. I know you got a lot to get off your chest, so we'll try and get as many opportunities to get it off your chest as possible. 617-779-0985. Don in Somerville. Go ahead, Don.
How you doing? I'll try to be quick, and I'll start off positive. Felger, I think you're very handsome. Felger, I hate you. Mazz, you're ugly. Have a good afternoon, boys. Or should I say pricks?
Okay, there you go. See. Quick, decent phone. Consider that a decent call right there.
Succinct. Brevity.
Jim in Duxbury. Go ahead, Jim.
I think something that as a Patriots fan I have to understand is the commissioner truly believes the Patriots did something wrong. I don't think there's any other explanation for his actions other than that he truly believes that.
Yes.
Sadly, for him, there's no evidence of it. So it led to this crazy investigation, this bizarre investigation, where the conclusion was drawn before the investigation began. It's just craziness. The thing on appeal, the league appealing it, Judge Berman cited 3 different points. I think Mazz was just reading them.
Yes, inadequate notice, denial of request to examine one of the lead investigators, i.e. Jeff Pash, denial of equal access to investigative files.
So for the league to win this on appeal, an appeal court has to say that Judge Berman was wrong on all 3 of those counts. And that's, let me tell you, that's going to be a tough row for them to hoe.
I agree. I think the NFL's in a losing position. But again, I don't know. I didn't know where Berman was going to go on this one. I don't know the next one with any certitude, but if I were the NFL, I would just give it up. Well,
that would be the right thing to do. Since when has the league done the right thing?
Well, this is what I'm saying, too. The people who are in a position of power, and I'm not necessarily talking about Goodell. I'm talking about the guys who really make the decisions, the tactical legal decisions. That's not Goodell. He's the empty suit. But the guys who make the tactical legal decisions, I don't know if they're going to be in a position of power in 10 months when this case is heard. And maybe the NFL starts relying on a whole new batch of lawyers, which they should, and that whole new batch of lawyers looks at this case and said it isn't worth it. Now, I'm not convinced that this thing is even going to go to appeal. I know they're going to file it, and they'll let the process play out, but I would not be surprised at all if this thing is largely over. But the first thing the caller said is absolutely right. The league thinks the Pats did it. The league thinks they did it. They believe they did it. And I agree with them. But the problem is, when you then go into a court of law with why you think they did it and then the process that you used to punish them for such, it has to be stronger than what it was. And that is, it just reeks of incompetence, Mazz. Overreach and incompetence for the NFL to go into court with the case that they did, whether the Pats did it or not. This is about the case today. The case was not strong enough. And Berman told them that to their face in open court on in front of national media. Your case is not good enough. And in the process of that, they still refuse to settle.
Yeah, but that's not why he vacated. He didn't vacate because the case wasn't strong enough, Mike. He vacated because they didn't follow procedure.
Well, yes, but that's part of the case. When you come in to that courtroom, you're saying, this is how we punished him. This is the process we used to punish him. And it obviously wasn't good enough.
Okay, when you say case, I interpret that as science of PSI and football.
No, that's not the case. The case is the process that they used to punish Tom Brady. That's the case. It wasn't good enough. So, look, the league thought they did it, and that's well and good. But then when it comes to the appeal process, you have to give him a fair process if you expect to go to court. And the fact that the NFL doesn't have enough smart people to say that the process we used at arbitration was not going to be good enough at the next level shows you where they're at. And there's got to be owners that look at the decision makers, meaning, again, the lawyers, and say, you guys aren't good enough.
Yeah, look, the pressure will come from ownership if that's what happens. I just told you, I'm not convinced that that's entirely going to happen yet. It might. I'm not saying it's that the case is absolutely going forward. I'm just not sure it's over yet. I'm somewhere in the middle on that one.
Dick in Uxbridge. Go ahead, Dick. You're up next.
Yeah, Mike, guys, thanks for taking my call. And, Mike, this is hard for me to say, but you want to know, I thought that you've been fair because you've been hard on the Patriots in the past. But I thought you've been fair with this whole thing going on. You've walked down the middle of both sides. I appreciate it. But why I called, I'm going to test your memory and Mazz's. Do you guys remember when the NFL attorney was talking to Judge Berman, and he mentioned the word Deflategate, and the judge coming back and saying, well, I don't see no gate in this thing. Do you guys remember
Yes, of
that?
course. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
That's when I knew that they were going to win this thing. But on the other side of the coin with Goodell, and I have to say this because he keeps using this word, Mike, integrity. This guy is mucked up everything he's touched in the past. He has no right to use the word integrity of the game anymore. He just never got it right. You guys go. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, what another hit to his reputation. And of all of them that he's taken, Goodell in his office, this is the capper. This is the capper. Mazz, they're the one who took Brady to court. They chose the court. They went to a court where in 68 cases like this that were put before it, 66 times management won. They picked the court, which means they picked the judge, ostensibly. They went in with a huge case law advantage. Again, 66 of 68 cases in that court of this nature went to management. And across the country, 90+% of the time, the arbitrator's decision is upheld. They're the ones that sued Brady, not the other way around. And they still lost. And it wasn't even a split decision.
See, this is why Kessler didn't seem to care when the case got moved to New York, because he got Berman on top of it.
Well, it wasn't even parsed. I mean, that is embarrassing. That's embarrassing if you're the league. And so how do you, the next time there's a key arbitration case, how do you allow Jeff Pash, Greg Levy, some of these NFL lawyers to sit next to Goodell and run the process? And if it goes to court, how do you allow Daniel Nash, Jeff Pash, Levy, these guys, how do you give them the reins of the next case? That has to, and this is just the capper. Peterson, Rice, Bounty. I mean, this is the capper. It has to change. It will change.
Yeah, again, I just don't know why you stop there. Again, because Goodell's got to go too. The thing that I find somewhat comical about this.
Because Goodell, and Mazz, I think he's a bozo. Of course, he sucks. He deserves to lose his job. But he's got a very easy out, which is I rely on this team. I rely on my legal department. And so I think the legal department's in big trouble. They should be.
Okay, was he relying on his legal department too during Ray Rice?
Yeah.
Really? About the case, the tape and everything else, and the decision to go back and give another penalty?
I think everything that comes out of his mouth is put there by somebody else.
Yeah,
I do.
Look, he still has to be able to sell it in some capacity to the owners. I just don't stop there and leave Goodell out there. I'm sorry. I include him on the list, and I said this as far back as Ray Rice. The thing that I find comical is that people now here are screaming for it when they should have been screaming for it a year ago.
Mazz, let me just rephrase. I don't think it's realistic that he's going to lose his job in the next 10 months. I don't think it's going to happen that fast. I think he's lost power today, and it's going to fray, and he's going to lose support among some ownerships and, some ownership groups. And by the time we get to a year or two out of this, he might be in trouble. I don't think it's happening in 10 months. I don't. His legal team, it's got to go now. I mean, if you're an NFL owner, how do you put another big case in their hands? You simply couldn't. Alex in Andover. Yes, Alex.
Hey, first I'm just going to say, Mazz, I'm glad you took the first segment, the opening segment of this show, to emphasize that Brady is not innocent. So I'm glad we cleared that up right away. But I wanted to get into my point that you guys like saying that Patriots fans have been wrong every single step of the way. You love saying that. Meanwhile, during this whole entire ordeal, you guys have been wrong literally constantly. And I just wanted to go over a few quick points. Initially, Mazz, you were telling us all about how Brady was bluffing the entire time. He's not even going to take it to court. And then, of course, here we are. You emphasized that Brady would do anything to stop the appeal hearing from getting out, and here we are. You guys from day one told us there's middle ground for settlement. Obviously, the NFL proved that that's not the case. We heard about MLB versus Garvey, the same thing Munson was peddling in the Peterson case. That got tossed out the window. It wasn't even referenced in this 40-page report by Berman today. You said we're here because the Patriots lawyered up, and this is the most important thing. We're not here because the Patriots lawyered up. We're here because it was a witch hunt the entire time. The NFL set out to make the Patriots look bad every single step of the way. They didn't want to settle with Brady or just give him a fine because it was more important to them to make everyone think he was a cheater, and so were the Patriots. They never wanted fairness. It never had anything to do with anything other than it being a witch hunt and appeasing the 31 other owners.
Excuse me. Okay, but first of all, amazing phone, Alex. Thank you for the call. That last thing is still a subjective opinion. You don't know what would have happened if the Patriots had said what Jeff Kessler said in court 2 weeks ago, which is if these guys were doing anything, they were acting alone. If the Pats said that in January, Alex, you have no idea where we'd be here today. So that's still subjective. I wouldn't put that on your scoreboard. In terms of Garvey, I was just going off of what the league was hanging its hat on, and they obviously lost. That was obviously a loser today, and you're right. That appeared nowhere in Berman's ruling, other than just that statement that, again, the key item here where it says an arbitrator's factual findings are generally not open to judicial challenge. And that's sort of a nod to Garvey and probably a million cases where the arbitrator rules out. And he says we're not, and we accept the facts as the arbiter found them. So, Alex, the facts about whether you think he did it or not are unchanged. This is not about whether they did it or not.
You keep saying did it. The Wells report itself indicated that the balls were only 0.1 or 0.2 psi below what they should have been based on the ideal gas law. So really what you're doing, you're saying you're accusing McNally of going into a bathroom and releasing 0.1 psi from 12 footballs. It's absolutely insane. It's so stupid.
Well, Berman, you know what? Then, Alex, I would say Berman feels the way I do because we accept the facts as the arbiter found them.
Well, he has to as a judge, Felger. If he says he doesn't accept the facts, he's opening himself up to losing on appeal. He's saying what he has to do to keep his case airtight. It's got nothing to do. As a judge, he knows he's not allowed to go in after the facts.
Yes. Alex, we don't need to relive that part of it, though. Okay, we disagree. No, listen, we disagree on that part of it.
But hold on, I'll go back and
you don't think they did anything there, and I do, and that's okay. On the other stuff, I was wrong.
I'm sorry, Mazz.
Mazz, you can't argue you were wrong. You were clear. I mean, you just say you were wrong that Brady wasn't going to take it to court. Of course you're wrong. Here we are. You have no legs to stand on.
Okay, you want to go back to the balls? There were some that were way more than 0.2 under, Alex. Way more. Okay? And so that is still subjective, whether you think they did it or not. I still think they did it. I just think their case sucked. I'm sorry, Mazz. I talked all over you.
No, it's fine. What do you want me to tell you? My job is to offer my opinions at that particular point in time. I thought Brady was bluffing. I was wrong. So, yes, I've been wrong on a number of points in this thing as it has gone through the legal process. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I mean, if you think I'm going to be ashamed to tell you that I said something in my opinion that was wrong, well, then let me know the next time you're 100% on everything. Because apparently Alex is 100% on everything. I'm not. I never said I was. But my job is to sit here and tell you how I think the thing was going to go. And it went a hell of a lot deeper than I thought it would. That said, I still don't think it's over. You do. Maybe the NFL will pull the plug in this thing and never pursue it again. I have no idea. But if I were them, having gone this far, I'd keep pushing at this stage.
God, if I were an NFL owner, I'd look at the league and say, what are you bozos doing?
I have also said that it reached the point a long time ago for me where my priority was to keep Tom Brady on the field for the most games possible. It is now that he's going to be 16. Okay, I'm thrilled about that. I'm not mad that Tom Brady's going to play all 16 games. I'm ecstatic about it. I just thought the chances of it were slimmer than a lot of other fans thought, and I thought it would have behooved him to accept the 2 games or cut a deal for 1 or 2 games and move on. But given that he pushed it and won, hey, good for him. This is great news for the Patriots.
But again, the league, very early on in front of Berman, very early on, it looked like they had a losing case. And Brady offered him a game. And they said no. I mean, people deserve to lose their jobs. People deserve to lose their jobs over that one. Get back to your reaction after the CBS Sports Minute. John Feinstein says some things never change. John shares the latest on the Rutgers athletic program.
Now, here's the CBS Sports Minute on 98.5, the Sports Hub.
This is John Feinstein, and this is the CBS Sports Minute. Rutgers football coach Kyle Flood either doesn't get it or simply doesn't want to get it, which means he fits in perfectly with Rutgers' recent history. Flood is being investigated by Rutgers for sending an email to a professor about star cornerback Nadir Barnwell. Apparently, Barnwell's eligibility was in jeopardy, and Flood wondered if something could be done about that. Just sending the email was a violation of school policy. Flood was upset first with NewJersey.com for reporting the story. Now, after two school officials told NJ.com that Flood was, quote, trying to circumvent the process and trying to get the kid eligible, Flood's upset again. Flood breaking the rule isn't the problem, according to Flood. People talking about it is. Sigh. I'm John Feinstein.
Listen to CBS Sports Radio every weekend for nonstop sports updates and breaking news, including analysis of the hottest topics in sports.
CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio.
Listen live every weekend on air or online at cbssportsradio.com.
They will have the meltdown on your drive home, so you don't have to.
What else are you going to screw up, Felger?
Felger and Mazz.
Can you feel it or what?
On 98.5, the Sports Hub.
You know, this is a major rebuke of Roger Goodell. And
the latest of many.
Might even be time for us to reconsider commissioner disciplinary powers. This might be untenable for the long term. It may not work anymore.
So you're saying that Tom Brady is generally aware. So that means that if another player is generally aware that a teammate is using steroids, that he too should be suspended by the NFL's methods and the way that it's describing things. They could not get their arms around that. Generally aware was a concept that didn't cut it with Judge Berman.
How do you feel about another victory?
All right, you've heard the news by now. Tom Brady's 4-game suspension overturned today by federal judge Richard M. Berman in New York. NFL said it will appeal, but that thing's going to take a while. This thing's now on the back burner until the offseason, and I still wonder whether it's actually going to happen. Because I think that the legal team that Roger Goodell relies on is going to be, if not replaced, swapped out, diminished. There has to be new lawyers that take a look at these NFL disciplinary cases. And who knows, new lawyers come in, they look at this case and say it's best if we just drop this. I think it is best if the NFL just drops it. Too big of a loss today. Take the loss. You lost.
What a beating this league has taken in the last year. It is really unbelievable what a beating Goodell has taken in the last year.
Overreached and you lost. Had a chance to settle, had a chance to have a more reasonable punishment, and you pass it up every single time because it's just what you do, and you're not smart enough to understand that it's better to have a bad settlement than a losing decision, right? I mean, you just could have cut your losses so much earlier in this process, and they went all in and got beat over the head with it. So they deserve to lose. Your thoughts? That's what we're taking all day. Special edition of Felger and Mazz. We've come in an hour early because we're leaving 90 minutes early for the New England Honda Dealers Patriots pregame show with Beadle and Gasper, where they will talk to Jonathan Kraft, team president. You will get direct reaction from the organization and Kraft.
So we don't get credit for these ratings, right?
Nope. This goes to Beadle and Zoe. You're welcome, Beadle.
Looks like they're going up in middays.
You're welcome, Beadle. Here's Greg in Shrewsbury. Go ahead, Greg.
Two things. I'll be real brief. You asked for that. One, Berman said, 2 nights ago on the 7 o'clock show, they said that Berman has the right to refuse the appeal if he can prove that the NFL doesn't have proof that Brady severely damages the league by winning the appeal. So he has the right to cancel it. My other point, and I've been waiting for months to do this, and I finally got through, I think the whole deal with the football should be eliminated by eliminating any restrictions on the football. You want to play with a Nerf and you want to play with a brick? I don't care. Let them play with whatever they want. Now I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
Okay, I don't agree with that second point. I want them to play with a football. I want them to play with a regulation football. I don't want them to play with a little Nerf ball or a big rugby ball. This is football. This isn't rugby, and this isn't Nerf football. It's football.
Yeah, that would be stupid. The biggest bum wide receivers in the league all of a sudden would be putting up 1,100 yards and like 5 touchdowns a year. You don't want that.
Yeah, you got to have some parameters. Otherwise, forget it. It's like lawlessness. Who knows what the hell they'll start pulling? There's got to be some guideline.
You said it the other day. I'm for them looking at these gloves now, too, how tacky they are. Like, okay, Odell Beckham had shown in college he can make the one-handed grab, but if, bum wide receivers start to do that, stop it.
So, Joe Thomas, others have said it. Just let the quarterbacks do what they want with it. No, that's not what I want. And that's not what we want. This is football. It's not rugby. And you're not playing on the beach with one of those turbo balls that you can throw 70 yards in the air when it whistles. That's not this. So there's got to be parameters. And I just think, simply put, you just keep your eye on the balls after they're inspected. I mean, it's really not that complicated. Don't allow team employees to run off with footballs or be left alone with footballs after they've been inspected. Keep the league guy there with the balls. Problem solved. Over. But instead we got all this, and they're going to do all this for cocktail measuring this year? Again, we've been over that. I don't... Just keep your eye on McNally. Here's Mike in Millbury. He's going to beat his chest here. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, you're going to let me beat my chest?
Yes, baby.
The hands-on Bible, McNally will testify, Tom Brady's cell phone messages are going to be subpoenaed. You're going to let me bump my chest? Okay. Shout out to Alex. I'd like to continue with the list. Berman's just playing devil's advocate. The players signed away their rights in the CBA. Garvey case trumps everything. The NFL has some good attorneys, too. They're learning from all these losses.
I did say that.
Yeah, you did. All right, guys, I'm not going to rub it in. I'll end it there. You should just do one show where you pull your greatest hits of predictions, because it would be hysterical. Just 4 hours. Because if you don't do it, I'm calling up Zoe and Bertrand, and I'll have them do it. But seriously.
They don't have access to the tapes.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, listen, fire away. You have every right to fire away today, but you do realize that not everything we said was wrong.
A huge portion of what you said was wrong.
Okay, all right. All I asked for is that you acknowledge that it wasn't everything.
I'll take it up with Bertrand and Zoe, and I'll let them pull tape, because you're never going to be able to use Zoe's tape against him anymore. But anyway, here's what I think is really going to be interesting, because I disagree with Michael. They actually have to go to court now, because they went all in. They have to get this struck down, because this is now precedent. This is a very important, very significant case, and if you add it up with Rice and all the other ones, this along with you got to look at it. It's not like Garvey against this case. This works with Garvey, and that's what you guys have never understood. That's how it works. So they actually have to go to court to try to get this struck down, or either what I'm thinking they have to do, and I'd like to get you guys talking about this. How much pull does Bob Kraft have anymore in this league? The people resent, dislike. I know they respect him, but do they resent him and dislike him, the organization, Belichick and Brady so much?
Well, Mike,
they can't see the forest for the trees and say, we got to rein this in. We got to change this.
Yeah, that thing I'm very interested in. How does the fellow owners feel about Kraft? Do they look at him and go, "Gee, Bob, you were right. You're right," or do they say, "Pat's got away with it again"? I'm curious. I don't know.
Well, don't you think it's both, depending on which side?
Right? I don't know. I think that's going to be very interesting to see. And Jim Murray said in Kraft's statement today, he never mentions Goodell, but he does go after the lawyers in the league office. So I know some fans think that this now opens the door for the Pats to go back and get their first round pick back. I don't think that's happening, and I don't think Kraft is going to overtly go after Goodell to take him down, because I think Kraft loves his seat of power next to Goodell. But you can take down the people around him. The fall guys. Everyone needs a fall guy. Chris Carter, right? And it's Pash, Nash, and Levy, and those NFL lawyers. And I think that's the middle ground. But the thing in terms of the NFL has to fight this now? No, they don't. They don't. They don't have to do that. What's easier, right? Lawyering back up and now going into appellate court and trying to win this case, or just going to independent arbitration, taking the power away from Goodell, getting a team of independent arbiters that the players sign off on, changing your process, and dropping this. It feels to me like that second thing's a little bit easier.
Okay, but Mike, the what was it that they just appealed in Minnesota? Wasn't it something related to the Peterson case?
That was the PA trying to hold the NFL in contempt because they've never technically rescinded Peterson's suspension. The league technically hasn't done it. The courts overturned it, and so Peterson's playing, but technically he's, and I'm not sure I'm getting this exactly right, but they wanted Goodell held in contempt. That's why Doty said at one point, "What do you want me to do? Throw him in jail?" So that was the PA filing against the NFL.
Yeah,
go on.
I'm not convinced that the league's going to give this one up. I mean, should they? Of course, they shouldn't have done a lot of things in this thing though, and it didn't necessarily stop them. Also, with all due respect to the Patriots, how do you come out and condemn league lawyers and not condemn the commissioner? So is this politics again?
Yes.
Yeah, but I can't stand that. If wipe it all out. Like I said this again a year ago, Goodell's got no credibility. So now the owners that can manipulate Goodell still want him in there. No, if you're gonna make a change, wipe it all out. Lawyers and commissioner, start over. If you're gonna do that, go the full hog.
Okay, so we're full hog here on Felger and Mazz, and we're gonna take it till 4:30. Which again, your New England Honda Dealers Patriots pregame show, Patriots preview. Beadle and Gasper, how does the Patriots organization feel about this? We've read the statement from Robert Kraft. That has been released today, but you will hear in their own words from Jonathan Kraft, team president. He will talk to Beadle and Gasper. They usually do it around 7 o'clock, half hour before the kick. Maybe they'll do it earlier this time. Who knows? But Beadle and Gasper will be in the belly of the beast, if you will, on that Patriots pregame show with team executive reaction. So that's coming your way after 4:30, but it's Felger and Mazz. Until then, we'll get back to your phones at the top of the hour.
Michael Felger, Tony Maserati, Felger and Mazz.
CBS Sports Radio brings you the best in national sports talk from some of the biggest names in sports. Jim Rome, Tiki, Doug Gottlieb Show rolls on. Analysis, debates, commentary, interviews, and more. On air and online at CBSSportsRadio.com.